Alright, what up guys? I've been currently riding back and forth to work, and it's always on the peak hours of the traffic. Lane splitting is the preferred choice, like what I'm doing now. I'd rather not lane split, but it's quite bad, the traffic, so I have to. So that's why I thought of making this video. This is just my own personal tips and tricks for lane splitting. So lane splitting is frowned upon, I guess in US or Europe and even Australia maybe, but here in Singapore or in Asia, lane splitting is like, it's the way of life, I would say. It's hard to get from one place to another without lane splitting, especially in a city like this. And when you lane split, there's bound to be dangers. But to be honest, to me, what I personally feel, I'd rather lane split through a heavy traffic like this, because I can see what's up ahead instead of going behind a car. So if let's say I'm behind this white Mazda in front of me, if he hits the brake, I might not react in time. Whereas like now, I get to see both sides of the traffic. I can see what's up ahead of me. You know, I can prepare, and I have an escape path. So let's go to the let's go into the tips and tricks. But before that, let me get onto the highway first. Alright, so lane splitting, tip number 1. I think this is a very obvious tip. Do not lane split out of your abilities. So let's say if you're only comfortable doing at maybe 70 or 80 km, no, don't go more than that. Lane splitting is if you try to do it when you're not comfortable, that's when it's bad. So always be comfortable with lane splitting. If you're not, don't do it. Very simple. Tip number 2, when you lane split, always look out for the car in front. Because what vehicles normally do when you lane split, they don't normally signal, they don't check the mirrors or blind spot. So they will swerve from one lane to another. One way to know if a car is going to swerve, if you see those white lines, the white dotted lines, what they like to do is they will edge closer to the line. So let's say like that red car, it will get closer and closer to the line, and suddenly they'll just put a signal and swerve. Sometimes they don't even do that. So if you see a car starting to move in, you know, get ready for, you know, just in case you need to hit the brakes or to move out. Alright, tip number 3, the way you brake is important. I personally try my best not to hit the front brake. Like traffic like this, if you're going in a comfortable space, always just tap your back brake a bit to adjust. I only use my front brake together in my back if it's a need to stop immediately. If not, normally I just use my back brake to just adjust the speed limit. Alright, next tip. When you're lane splitting, always look far. A lot of times when we lane split in Singapore, there are multiple bikes in front, and what we naturally do is we tend to look at the bike in front of us. But we have to look beyond that, so that if a car is swerving in front of him, or if he's going to, the bike in front accidentally clips a mirror, the guy will brake. So if you know what's happening in front, you don't have to wait for the person right in front of you to brake. You can already start slowing down, and it actually helps a lot. In many instances where I actually braked and started to slow down even before the first few bikes started to, because I was seeing far ahead. It's very important, especially in situations where, you know, it happens very quickly. That is very important. The next advice or the next tip I have, when you lane split, you must have an escape path. So what do I mean by an escape path? So wait, let me try to get into a situation like that. So just give me a second, let me get into such a situation. Okay, so let's say there are two vehicles like this and you're riding. Now you see it's a few vehicles, correct? In situation like this, the vehicles are spaced out. They're alternating. So when you're going to a lane split, always know where you can escape. So let's say I'm going in and there's a vehicle on the right and there's a gap on the left. Subconsciously you need to know that you can escape through there. It's a very important thing. Okay, so let's say escape is important, correct? So now I'm lane splitting. If I'm going to lane split, there's a car on the right, there's a space on the left. If he jams his brake, you must be ready to swerve to your left. Alright, depending on the situation. So you need to know where your vehicles are. Even let's say you're not lane splitting, I'm just riding like this. There's a gap now, then I decide to ride through. And suddenly, this car on the left swerves to the right. I gotta be able to swerve in and accelerate. So that's why you gotta make sure that there is an escape route. Always know where you're going. Alright, the next tip I have. When you're lane splitting, sometimes, or maybe as a general rule of thumb, braking is not always the best choice. Sometimes the power of your bike or your accelerator is the better choice. I know it sounds weird, but there have been many situations where the guy swerves in and I hit my brakes and I would have slammed right into him. But instead, what I do is, or like I did was, when the car swerved in, I swerved along with the car and I accelerated as hard as I can. So before he covered the lane, I actually managed to squeeze through by the side and get out of harm's way. You can only do that if your bike has enough power to do it. And to be honest, yeah, you will go above the speed limit for the split second, but that move saves me a lot of time. When I know it's safe to brake, but I can stop it in time, I do. But that's normally in the heartlands where there's traffic lights and all those, where if you stop there, you're not going to die. But in roads like this, if a car swerves and you're going to jam brake and end up stopping, you're going to get rear-ended. So the best way is try not to stop if you can. Swerve out of the way and go, because sometimes braking is not the option. So just keep them in mind. Some situations braking is good, some is not. So just take a note of that. Alright, so these are my tips for lane splitting. And just a bit more advice, not say really tips, but one, if it's heavy, if it's raining heavily, try not to lane split. Unless, actually just don't lane split. The chances of you crashing is high because you're going to be on the white line and probably going to brake. If you brake on this painted white line when it's raining, you're going to slide. Happened to me before, happened to my dad before when I was a kid, when I was pillaring. Yeah, it's pretty dangerous. Other than that, nothing much. Lane split comfortably, well within your limits. Look far, look at the body language of the car, see how they are swerving, whether they are converging or whether spreading out. Always have an escape path, and always look far ahead when you're lane splitting. Keep this in mind and you should be okay. And also be careful with the brakes, don't slam on them. So it's a very short video and I hope it helps you. I'll come back with another video soon. Till then, ride safely and see you guys soon.